Keeping Muscle Up podcast show. I'm really excited for this new segment we have. It's called Industry Edge. And in this segment, we want to talk about what's next for the fitness and wellness industry. We want to talk about insightful, future-focused, strategies and where to steer your business next. So I thought we'd kick off this brand new Industry Edge segment by getting a special guest on, somebody who's in the know, who's talking to not just suppliers, but fitness professionals, and constantly being bombarded and with products and where the industry is going next. And he is shifting through that to find the best industry experts, best people to bring to his AusFitness industry trade show and something that's coming up. Welcome to the show, Shaun Krenz, the co-founder and director of AusFitness Industry Trade Show and Summit. And Shaun's been in the game for a long, long time. Now, if you don't know about this trade show, it's the largest and most influential fitness event in the Southern Hemisphere. 15 years leading the charge. Shaun has reshaped how fitness professionals and brand and consumers connect, collaborate, and do business. And he's been doing it for a very long time in all different seasons. And this year, there's a show coming up, which I want to talk about, but I also want to talk about some massive changes in the fitness industry. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Thanks, Rich. Pleasure to be here.
I always actually talk about the AusFitness Industry Trade Show. I kind of reference it sometimes to the Shaun Show. I don't know if you get that as well, but it just has a rhythm to it. You've been doing shows for many years, haven't you, Shaun?
I have actually, Rich. Yeah, started back in 2009. Many of your listeners, I'm sure, will remember the golden years of Darling Harbour. And it was, it's had a few different names throughout that journey. I guess it started as Filex. But however, when I actually have always worked, what many people don't understand, Rich, and I think we've explained this previously, Filex was the conference that ran co-locate to the expo or trade show, which has always been my business. So throughout that journey, we had a few different brands. It was Australian Fitness and Health Expo at one point, and then Fitness Show for a number of years. And then the pandemic obviously came along in 2020 and wiped us out. And we had a 2-year hiatus then, which was really, really hard, of course, for our business. We emerged, we launched again with a new brand called Fitness Wellness Australia, which didn't quite stick. And so now we've gone back to basics, which is AusFitness Expo, AUS Fitness Expo. That's our general public serving offering. And that co-locates, of course, with what you've just mentioned, AusFitness Industry, which is our trade show and summit for industry professionals.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And, over those years, at the end of the day, I think, what you do a great job is bring communities together. If it's not the industry, but it's also then the consumers, and the consumers, we say, the ones that are going to the gyms, the 24/7 facilities and so forth. So you've got two sort of worlds going on there, which is always a challenge. Our listeners are dealing with the consumers, as you know, but we love talking to the B2Bs and see where that's going. And I probably want to head down. I want to talk about that a little bit today, because I guess isn't interesting. Like, you see things that are happening, but until you actually experience on a trade show floor and you think, oh, hang on, we were talking about ice baths like years ago. What's an ice bath? And now you walk down last year to the shows and you see ice bath, sauna. Like, what the hell? I want to touch on that. What is going on with recovery? I mean, it was interesting. Recovery to an everyday person, I don't know, like, is it a hype? Or is it? Do we seriously need to recover ourselves? And is this where the industry is heading? And we moved away from the sweat, and we going into recovery? Are we sweating enough, Shaun? That's what I'm trying to understand here. Is it a fad, or is it here to stay?
I think it's definitely here to stay. It's here to stay, Rich. I think we're seeing a clear shift from. We have now seen a clear shift from fitness as punishment to fitness as performance and longevity, I guess you'd say. Strength training is more mainstream than ever still, and that's I guess the most original form of training or fitness that there is, especially among women still, I should add, and actually the older demographics. Strength training's really seeing a boom there. But I think the real evolution is that people now want that full system, Rich. They want the strength, they want the recovery, they want the mindset and the lifestyle. So they're not just chasing aesthetics anymore. They want energy, resilience, and confidence that lasts. So I think that's why we've restructured the AusFitness Expo and industry events to reflect that new expectation. And, I think what you'll see at the shows this year is a lot of different recovery innovations that are designed to fuel performance. We'll have dedicated sessions within our conference program that touch on it as not just a luxury add-on, but almost like the main event that's an enabler, I guess, for more strength and better energy and faster gains and whatnot. So, yeah, I think just to round out the question specifically to recovery, it's the difference between burning out and leveling out. So, at our events over the past 12 months, the biggest cues have been for the ice baths and the infrared saunas, and I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know.
I know that's perfect. Now, before I forget, we're talking about September the 19th to the 21st. Trades on 19th to 20th, and the public's on 9th to 21st. Are they those correct dates to throw out there, Shaun?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So 19 to 21 of September at our home, the ICC in Sydney. So that's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday event. Just to clarify that though, that the Oz Fitness Industry, the trade show event, just runs on the Friday and Saturday, and then the Oz Fitness Expo event for general public, that stays open on the Sunday as well. That event is a celebration of all the different fitness communities kind of coming together in the same place at the same time. So it's becoming more of a fitness festival, very busy. But I think good for gym operators to still have a look and a walk through just to see what's really exciting, the members in today's landscape.
Yeah. I think this is interesting. It's a new season. We were talking about that before. There's different seasons as we go through. You had the COVID season, and then the peak season. You said when you launched, and it was also new. But there's a lot of new things happening, and I think I've personally got a few fitness suppliers that are coming that I recommend to get a stand. I've also got our clients, studios that over the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've been talking about Pilates, right? And should I get that? We've been talking about infrared saunas. Should I be getting that? And a lot of them have got that into their studios now because they came to the shows, because they were in the know. They're making dividends and income from that. They're able to take up their weekly incomes because they're putting these new initiatives into their studios and into the gyms. And you see that I went to an Anytime Fitness down in Newcastle last week, brand new one. They've got the massage guns there, and I haven't seen that in Anytime Fitness. So as we progress, I think this is really important to really understand that, okay, if the recovery is it, what are we doing as business owners to make sure that we're up there? Because if the whole world's going one way and we're still stuck in sweat, 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 nothing else, sometimes that is the worst thing we can do as a business owner, is close our eyes to what's possible and what we can need and what we need to do. On the flip side of that, you see business owners there every year, and they're saying, okay, that's a new thing that I can bring into my studio and my gym. Do you see that? You've been in this game for so long, Shaun, from different elements of it, the ones that are moving ahead and the ones that are sticking still. What are the differences that you see in a business person, the ones that are driving forward? What are they doing, in your viewpoint, different to the ones that are just staying and doing the same thing and not growing?
I think you use the recovery wave as an example. You've still got to kind of keep it simple. Uh,
Yep.
you don't need to pivot away from strength again. I think you're layering recovery into strength or your existing offerings. So, contrast therapy zones are good options. Guided cool downs, or even breath work after sessions. Those, even massage chairs too, Rich. I honestly think a massage chair it's going to be like a treadmill. And
Mm.
you look at Anytime Fitness or those gyms in that category, there's no reason why they can't have a couple of massage chairs in every single one of those. And that's just that 10 to 15 minute guided wind down offering for members, just to get a little bit of recovery for the mind as much as the body. So I think those, because the thing is too, mate, we are privy to the fact that the ice baths and the saunas, and cryo, to go even further, that's complex. It's not
Yes.
easy to integrate those sort of products into your gyms, especially if your gym's a swipe in, swipe out type of offering. The massage chair, though, and the different compression technologies that are available, I think they are, easy to integrate. So that would be my recommendation in terms of keeping it simple, because I feel like those small shifts can really elevate the
Mm.
perceived value of your offering without blowing up the model. Again, you're not replacing the barbell, you're reinforcing it with some complementary add-ons.
Yeah, great reinforcing. I love that, and I'd have to echo that. I was in Vegas show maybe 2, 3 months ago, whenever it was, and I had a industry contact there, and he owned one of the largest massage chair providers in the US, and I sat there for probably an hour on his stand just chatting, and I couldn't believe how many massage chairs he sold in the space that I was there for an hour. He had gyms coming and purchasing 20 or 30 at a time. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
massive
I'm
facilities.
not surprised, mate. And I think it's still a very underrepresented product here in the Australian market. EMF Fitness, on the Gold Coast, Scott
Mm.
Freeman's business, they got four in their latest gym that they just opened in Robina. It's called Home Hub. And mate, they're absolutely brilliant. Like, they've got all these different types of massage experiences that you can immerse yourself in, and they each go for about 15 minutes. If you want to do more, you can. I really think that's the opportunity for every gym in Australia, is offerings like that.
Yeah, that's great. The thing I love about your show, Sean, the Oz Fitness show, that's going to happen in September there, I do really love seeing the random kind of stalls. I don't know. Um, when I say random, I mean something that's like just out of this world. Like, they're bleeding edge and leading edge. Some are like on the leading and some are just on the bleeding. And maybe they're 2 years ahead of the curve. Or maybe it's just been a great idea and they wanted to bring it to market. Do you see that over the years, Sean? Like, really brands that are just doing well. And then sometimes you'll see brands that are just still testing out the market. Is there something you can talk about that? Because I just love seeing those crazy, new, innovative products that I don't know if they're going to stick, but they're certainly giving a massive crack.
Yeah, I definitely see that, Rich. I think what your listeners who attend the show in September can look forward to is a very different look and feel on the trade show floor, which has
Okay.
been occurring already over the past 2 or 3 years, but even more so again with this coming edition. I think the traditional suppliers that serve the Australian market are being disrupted and challenged massively by brands that are looking to enter the Australian market directly, and they're using the trade show as a platform to launch and as a platform to do that. So, the level of innovation in coming out of the Asian markets, which was perhaps frowned upon previously.
Yep.
I think if you look at any other industry, like if you look at the car industry, to use that as an example, look at how good the Chinese cars are now, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that's happening in the fitness industry as well. So I think it's a mistake that if the traditional suppliers that serve the Australian market are not showing up in force, because if you relax and do that, then we've seen in other industries, you can lose market share really quickly. But to be transparent with you and all the listeners, that is what's happening at this coming trade show. You're going to see international brands that you haven't seen previously before, which I think is an exciting attendee experience.
Yeah, that's great. It means you don't have to go anywhere else. You just get your ticket to Sydney if you're not local and get there, which is really exciting.
For sure.
Um, I want to sort of touch on a little bit around if you can give an insight because you're dealing with a lot of you're inside a lot of gyms and you're inside also a lot of the. I've got two questions for you around business, right? I sort of want to understand from your perspective if we can talk about just off topic a little bit for the show, like what's a good profit margin, what's a challenge, and what's an opportunity you feel is something that a gym should look up towards or something that they should steer away from? From your viewpoint, what are you seeing as challenge and opportunities in this game at the moment?
Gee, Rich, that is a fantastic question. And how I want to start with that is that IBIS did recently release their, what's it called, their gyms and fitness centres in Australia, their report, their 2025 report. And what that actually cited was declining revenue, down 7% from 20 to 2025. And that was driven by cost of living pressures and rising preferences for budget gyms, walking or at-home workouts.
Yep.
Um, but then we're in a bit of a profit margin bloodbath here in Australia. Industry-wide profitability collapsed due to that compression. I think that saturation in the market, high competition,
Mm,
low cost pricing strategies. And that's not just specific to fitness facilities, gym owner operators. That's something we're seeing in other product categories, probably fitness equipment on the supply side as well, I'd imagine. Sports supplements, definitely. Activewear, definitely, because there's so many of those suppliers that are out there now, right? So, yeah, in terms of the average profit margin Australia-wide for gyms, well, according to IBIS, it's less than 10%, which is tough. It's a tough spot to be as a business owner, trying to constantly keep your head above water with a low margin like that, right? You only need a bad 2 or 3 months, and things get
mm,
really stressful. I would love to see a course correction from a pricing perspective. It's difficult at the moment because there is some outlier gyms that are offering ridiculous pricing and trying to go with that mass model. So I get it's hard, and I don't even know what the answer is, but
yeah.
I'm just not sure how sustainable it is for all of us as operators to keep moving forward with those thin single-digit
Mm.
margins.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think the answer is to that? Because it is, it's a tough spot. I look at it. We look at a lot with studio owners and also independent gyms, and then you've got big brands coming out offering very, 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 very cheap memberships, and they're good facilities. Sean, they look nice. You know what I mean? Before we could say, oh, they're not this, but they're doing a good job. So I don't know. The only thing that I sort of bring this down as a solution is are people buying into a brand? Are people buying into the community? Or are
Mm.
people buying into the actual equipment? Or is it a combination? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a combination of all of those things. We've got some angles as part of the conference offering within the trade show that will touch on this topic, and we've researched some different markets in Europe. One angle we're seeing is the rise of casual visits. So kind of long-term contracts are out in
Yep.
the markets globally, and flexibility is becoming the new premium. I think the insight there is that, hectic schedules that most people have, because there's a cost of living crisis in Australia in totality, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's dealing with it. So those hectic schedules and cost of living pressures have driven up casual visits and pay as you go. Um, I think that, that's something we'll cover. I also think you've got to really find where the opportunities are. I think seniors are the quiet kind of growth engine in the fitness industry. That 55 plus market is growing really fast. And then
Mm,
the six packs, they're after longevity. I think they can make up a higher percentage of gym revenue. And so the insight is, how do you better design to capture some of that? Um, and then you kind of touched on this as well, mate. I think gyms are really winning on experience first. And
mm,
so, what can you do to kind of build that community aspect and make it somewhere where, your people just have to be on a day-to-day
yeah.
basis.
Yeah, that's good points. And I think and for those who haven't been to the show, it's coming up in September, the ICC. And the thing I love about it, and I think that you've done this really well over the last few years. You really have smashed it out of the park. It's bringing actually real business operators, right? They're actually in business at the moment, you know, in franchises, in independents, and you're putting four or five of these experts, these business owners on stage, and you got people that are paneling it and actually drilling the questions out of them, and they're sort of spilling the truth of what's happening in their facility. And I think the best part of it is it's totally free. Take us through some of those panels. I'd love to talk about that because every time they're on, I get clients from me saying, "Oh, damn it, I should have came. I should have went to that. I should have went to those panels. It looked like it was really good, and I've been lucky enough to panel a few of those and be on those. But I just think there's a lot of value, even if you're not going to the trade show, just to come down and listen to these experts, which generally never ever talk at events. Take me through a few of those. A few of those panels are going to be on there on the show, Sean.
Yeah, well, I think, as we've kind of touched on this when I've previously said on this podcast with you, Rich. I think it's an incredible value proposition and a very underrated value proposition. To speak transparently as a business, like we are a trade show first and foremost. So our
Yeah,
core objective is to bring in gym owner operators with, product procurement intent. So we do that first and foremost. But second to that, and in order to get the audience in, there is a conference offering which is world class. There's no
yeah,
doubt about that, Rich. It's absolutely world class because we're talking 30 plus sessions, 50 plus speakers. Um, and it's if you work in the fitness industry, you get access to all of that for free. All you got to do is register. There's a cut-off period. I think it's 2 weeks before the show kicks off, where a $50 charge will kick in. So you just got to make sure you register prior. But how we've broken it up this year, Rich, is we've designed 5 different summit offerings, which will deep dive on these particular subjects. So the first one we're doing is a summit around business operations and revenue growth. Then there's also a Gym Leaders Summit, and the Gym Leaders Summit features all the CEOs from every leading gym chain in the market. So you can imagine who's involved there. Um, and then we're also doing a dedicated gym marketing and member engage summit, which you're involved in, Rich. And then also a wellness summit as well. And the wellness summit is more designed to help existing fitness operators reimagine their offering and dive a little bit deeper into some of those topics we were discussing earlier. And then lastly, we have a technology and innovation summit. So it's a really comprehensive offering. Just to touch on some of the sort of subjects
yeah,
within the marketing and member engagement summit, we've got a session around building authority and your brand with free PR. There's how to harness the power of community to build longer lasting member relationships. And then wellness, from a wellness standpoint, how to build recovery into your gym offering, 5 ways to grow and future proof your business with wellness. And then also unlocking Pilates as a growth channel. And then, yeah, I could go on and list all the sessions. It'll actually be live on our website, I think, Rich, by the time this podcast goes to air. So you can jump online and check out the full
yeah.
program and all the speakers, because that's all locked in as well. We're very organized this year, mate.
Yeah, that's great. It's ausfitnessexpo.com.au. We'll just reference that in the notes.
Yeah,
Ausfitnessexpo.com.au. Yeah, it's
yeah,
really good. And I think that sort of it's sort of like is I think this day and age, if you are in the fitness industry as an owner, right, you have to be very proactive of being at these events, seeing what's happening, and most importantly, understanding where is your next play because it's all for free, Sean. I think as we're talking about here, it's like listening to the market, it's all for free. So you either, bury your head in this sand of, listening to these, results, less than 10% profit. I think a lot of people agree with that. And then thinking, well, what is the way forward? We don't know what the way forward is, but I think by being around opportunities and being around people, it definitely, you can get that edge, you can get that angle, which I think what the whole show's about, which I'm really excited about.
yeah, 100%. Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Um, I want to touch on one thing, which I personally believe is the way of the future. I think it's the way that it's always been. It's the way that it's always going to be. And I think that is built on brand. I think that's built on authority and not just hype. I follow you on Instagram. I love your workout, Shaun. You're a man that does it, and you also actually are in that industry. I think more and more, I viewpoint, especially with AI coming out, with technology and AI going to be doing everything. I'd love to talk about your viewpoint on brand and your viewpoint on how to be the authority in the marketplace. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of hype out there, Shaun, and I think people are a little bit over the hype. They're trying to find, who to follow, where to attend the gym, and where I should go to, because there's a lot of cool kids doing some cool things, and there's a lot of people that are just hyping up a lot of different things online. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think the AI is crazy, right? Like everything we're seeing on social media at the moment is AI driven. So there's a real lack of authenticity, and you see declining engagement on the back of that. So
Mm,
really, the ones that are getting that high engagement are the ones that find a way to be authentic using today's tools, which we're all using. Let's be honest. So I do think that copy, email marketing, which we do a hell of a lot of, it's just not driving the same results as it once did for that
mm,
reason, because AI has driven just an unprecedented spike in the level of AI marketing simply because it's so easy to build an email now.
yeah.
And so I think, this is going to sound like a bit of a sales pitch here, but from our standpoint, I think, obviously attention is the new currency. I feel like live events are where you can cash in on that and build
Mm,
that brand authority, and that authenticity. If you think about it, TikTok and Instagram, they kind of give you a scroll, but events and that live experience in person, that gives you proof, proof that you're building something real, proof that you kind of care enough to show up. And, that's something that you just can't get from digital sort of mediums. I think it's just that proof that your brand matters in the flesh. And nothing builds trust, Rich, as you know, like real conversations, real product demonstrations, and real energy as well, right? So we are definitely seeing a spike because of this. The people are aware, really transparent. Again, it's expensive for brands to activate at these events. So it's not easy, but even with that, this year's Sydney event is tracking 40% ahead on our exhibitor metrics versus the same stage last year. And I think it's why brands are really understanding the importance of that authenticity. This event's the heartbeat of the industry in Australia. So I think that's probably a really strong example of of where it's at.
yeah, I love it. Face to face, seeing, feeling, touching. I think that's really, really important. Um, and I think that's a good understanding of where things are happening in the industry. I think there's going to be an exciting event coming up in September. And I think, my 2 cents is I'm always love being in these events. I think the one thing that we probably want to just draw a question to before we wrap up here is I do want to touch the concept of community. You know, if you are a business owner, studio owner, business owner, gym owner, and you are doing it tough and doing it by yourself, or maybe you're in a great position at the moment, there's something that is probably invisible a little bit, but it's a sense of community. It's a sense of meeting people, talking to people, possibly seeing people that you haven't seen for a long time, because we are in silos. What we do, just touch on that community piece. What community, I guess, means for the fitness industry and the people that are still here today because of just reconnecting into the community. And I think that you do a good job of that at the show itself. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think again, Rich, like, fitness used to be about results. Now it's about identity. I think the smart brands are selling a sense of belonging rather than products. So I think that goes for suppliers as much as it goes for operators. Like if you're building in this space, stop selling gear and start selling meaning. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Consumers they will test you, not just your product, but your integrity. They kind of want to know, do you live this? So people trust those, I think, who are in the trenches with them, if that kind of makes sense. So I think the brands or experiences that are dominating right now, they kind of understand who they are, who their consumer is, that their consumer doesn't just want to work out, that they want a fitness identity and a sense of belonging.
Yeah, great. I love it. Well, Shaun, thanks for coming on the show. Let's do a quick plug. I think it's really important. I think there's two plugs there I'd like to talk about. Obviously, the consumers that are coming there, the B2C, but also any industry people. But is there still room for suppliers, if there is suppliers listening to this, to come down and take a stand out? Shaun, what's the best way to do that?
I'd love to say we're 100% sold out, Rich,
Yep.
but that's not the case. We are 95% sold out, though, legitimately. So, there's within the industry section alone, there's 100 exhibitor spaces. So, we've sold 94 of those. So that's where it's at. The expo side's a different story because there's another 150 booths available there. Yeah, you would want to be quick, and also just to maximise the marketing benefits. All of our exhibitors are onboarded with marketing professionals and marketing templates that are designed to really maximise the experience and make sure that you get the most out of it. And to do that, obviously, having more lead time helps significantly. But yeah, what I will say is industry registration's been live for 2 weeks now, and we're 45% ahead again there as well versus the same stage last year. Numbers coming through the door, I think, on the back of that demand, that appetite for live experience, which is more so at the consumer end than anywhere else, right? I think we're going to see record numbers at the Sydney event this year, which is super exciting.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for your time, Shaun. Appreciate that and your insights. It's always valuable, and it's good to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for everything you do as well, mate. And can't wait for your sessions at the trade show.
Yeah, look forward to it. Should be really good. Thanks, Shaun. Guys, that's another episode of the Marketing Muscle Up Show. I hope you enjoyed this new segment. Wanting to make sure that you're ahead of the curve, and I think that's what Shaun's done in this segment. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time on Marketing Muscle Up Show.